If you are a Black person, have you ever thought about your last name? What can it reveal about yourself, your history, and your ancestry? Well, last names or family names are for this very purpose, so an individual can trace their ancestry and know under what conditions and where their ancestors used to live. Not only that, but your family name tells how many individuals exist with the same last name, revealing the total number of descendants from a single ancestor. In most cases, there are common last names, making it easier to trace the roots. So, would you like to know the history of your last name and who your ancestors were? Welcome to a new episode of Black Afric Diary, a channel where we talk about Black African history, culture, arts, and civilization. It's a place where you will see the real picture of Black Africa, its stories, and the events defining it. In this episode, we will tell you about the top 20 common Black last names, where they live, and their history. Let's get started. Number 20. Anderson. Approximately 275,000 African Americans bear the surname Anderson, with the largest concentrations found in Georgia, Texas, and the Carolinas. The name Anderson has its roots in Scottish and Scandinavian heritage. It's a patronymic surname, meaning it translates to son of Andrew. The name Andrew itself comes from the Greek name Andreas, which means manly or brave. Historically, the surname Anderson was common in Scotland and Norway, used by both rural communities and noble families. During the colonial period, many Scottish immigrants brought the name to America, and it became widespread, especially in the South, where Scottish influence was strong. During the era of slavery, many African Americans inherited the Anderson name from their enslavers, while others adopted it after gaining freedom. Over time, Anderson became a common surname for African Americans, particularly as they sought to create their own identities after emancipation. Number 19. Thompson. There are more than 290,000 African Americans with the last name Thompson, primarily found in Georgia, North Carolina, and Florida. The surname Thompson is of English and Scottish origin, and like Anderson, it's a patronymic name meaning son of Thomas. The name Thomas itself comes from Aramaic, where Taoma means twin. The name Thompson has been in use in Britain since at least the 14th century and became popular in America after British settlers established colonies. Many African Americans adopted the name after slavery, either inheriting it from their enslavers or choosing it post-emancipation. Thompson became a significant surname in the South, where many plantations were owned by Scottish and English families. Today, it remains one of the more common African American surnames, particularly in areas where plantation culture once thrived. Number 18. Washington. More than 293,000 African Americans share the surname Washington, with a large number living in Georgia, Texas, and Mississippi. What makes this surname unique is that around 90% of people with the last name Washington in the U.S. are African American, making it one of the most distinct surnames in terms of racial association. The name Washington originated in England, from the Old English elements wes, meaning wash, and tun, meaning settlement. Combined, it means settlement by the wash or homestead near water. After the Civil War, many African Americans, newly freed from slavery, chose surnames that represented their newfound freedom and identity. George Washington, the first president of the United States, symbolized strength, leadership, and independence. So many newly freed African Americans adopted the surname Washington. This name became especially common in the southern states, where many former slaves sought to establish their new identities after emancipation. Number 17. Green. The surname Green is carried by over 300,000 African Americans, with a high concentration in Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. The name has English origins and was typically a topographical surname, meaning it was given to people who lived near a village green, a grassy area, or in a place known for its greenery. It could also have been a nickname for someone with a fresh or youthful appearance. The surname Green has deep roots in England and was widely used in colonial America, particularly in the South, where agriculture and large estates were common. Many African Americans inherited the name Green from their enslavers, while others chose it after emancipation as part of their new identity. The name is often associated with the rural landscapes of the South, where many African Americans lived and worked on plantations. Over time, Green became a common surname among freed African Americans, symbolizing their connection to the land and their effort to build a new life after slavery. Number 16. Walker. The surname Walker is shared by nearly 343,000 African Americans, with the largest populations in Texas, New York, and Florida. Walker has English and Scottish origins and was originally an occupational surname, referring to someone who walked or trod on a woolen cloth to clean and thicken it during the textile manufacturing process. The name became widespread in Britain during the Middle Ages, especially in regions involved in the textile industry. Many English and Scottish immigrants brought the name to the American colonies, where it eventually spread to the South. African Americans, many of whom worked in labor-intensive roles such as cotton production, adopted the surname Walker during or after slavery. Number 15. Lewis. The surname Lewis is taken by nearly 345,000 African Americans, with many found in Florida, North Carolina, and Texas. Interestingly, Lewis has French origins, tracing back to the Old French name Louis, which itself is derived from the Germanic name Clodowig, meaning famous battle or renowned warrior. After the Norman conquest of England in 1066, the name became widely used across England, eventually evolving into Lewis. The name Lewis became common in the American colonies, particularly in the South. African Americans with the surname Lewis likely inherited it from their enslavers or chose it after gaining freedom. The name's meaning, renowned warrior, resonated with many African Americans who wanted to define themselves with strength and pride after emancipation. Number 14. White. Over 350,000 African Americans carry the surname White, particularly concentrated in Georgia, Texas, and North Carolina. The name White is of English and Scottish origin and is among the oldest surnames in the English-speaking world. Originally, the name was descriptive, often given to individuals with fair skin, light-colored hair, or those who wore white garments such as religious figures or monks. However, this surname was brought to America by British settlers and spread through the southern states, where many large plantations were established. During slavery, many African Americans inherited the surname White from their enslavers. After emancipation, African Americans often retained the name, seeing it either as a connection to their past or as a symbol of a fresh start after centuries of oppression. Slavery played a significant role in the proliferation of the surname White among African Americans. Many enslaved Africans were forced to adopt the surnames of their enslavers, particularly in Georgia, Texas, and North Carolina, where large white-owned plantations were common. Even after the abolition of slavery, the surname was passed down through generations as African Americans worked to rebuild their identities and histories. Number 13. Moore. More than 376,000 African Americans share the surname Moore, with significant populations in Texas, New York, and North Carolina. Moore has multiple origins, including English, Irish, and Scottish. It is a topographical surname, often given to individuals who live near a moor, a marshy or boggy area. In Ireland, Moore also has connections to nobility and is thought to come from the Gaelic O'Morda, meaning noble or proud. The surname Moore arrived in America with British, Irish, and Scottish settlers during the colonial period. It became particularly common in the southern states, where land ownership and large estates near moorlands symbolized wealth. African Americans with the surname Moore likely inherited it from their enslavers, many of whom owned plantations in these regions. Number 12. Wilson. Over 397,000 African Americans bear the surname Wilson, with large concentrations in New York, California, and Georgia. Wilson is of English and Scottish origin and is a patronymic surname, meaning son of Will or William. The name William comes from Old Germanic, combining the elements will, meaning desire, and helm, meaning protection, thus meaning resolute protector. The surname Wilson spread to America through British settlers, especially in the South and along the eastern seaboard. African Americans who bear the surname Wilson today likely inherited it from their enslavers, many of whom came from English or Scottish descent. Wilson was common among plantation societies, and after emancipation, many freed individuals continued using the name as a way to assert their freedom and identity. Number 11. Taylor. With over 399,000 African Americans carrying the surname Taylor, it's especially common in Illinois, Florida, and Virginia. The name Taylor originates from English and French roots, derived from the Old French word tailleur, meaning to cut. It was traditionally given to individuals who worked as tailors and skilled artisans responsible for cutting and sewing fabrics to create garments. The surname Taylor became prominent in Britain during the Middle Ages, as tailoring was a respected and necessary trade. Tailors were essential members of society, often creating clothing for wealthy families and the nobility. As British settlers migrated to America, they brought the name with them, and it soon became associated with skilled labor. Later, during slavery, many African Americans were forced into trades like tailoring, particularly within households or on plantations. Enslavers often assigned surnames like Taylor to the individuals they owned, reflecting their occupations. Even after emancipation, many African Americans chose to keep the surname Taylor as a tribute to their craftsmanship and the skills that had been passed down through generations. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black Africa. Let's continue now. Number 10. Robinson. The surname Robinson is carried by more than 444,000 African Americans, particularly in Georgia, Texas, and California. Robinson is of English and Scottish origin and is a patronymic surname, meaning son of Robin. The name Robin is a miniature of Robert, a name with Old Germanic roots combining the elements hrod, meaning fame, and bert, meaning bright. Robinson became widespread in England and Scotland, primarily through families descended from men named Robin or Robert. The name was brought to America by British settlers and gained significant popularity in the South, where many families carried it. Enslaved Africans, forced to adopt the surnames of their enslavers, often inherited the name Robinson, passing it down through generations. For enslaved individuals, having a surname, even if it was not their own, offered a small but significant form of identity within a system that denied them personhood. Number 9. Harris. The surname Harris is carried by over 494,000 African Americans, with significant populations in Texas, California, and North Carolina. Harris is of English and Welsh origin and is a patronymic surname, meaning son of Harry or Henry. Henry itself comes from the Old Germanic elements like heim, meaning home, and Rick, meaning ruler, thus meaning home ruler or powerful ruler. The surname Harris became widespread in Britain, especially among landowning families. British settlers brought the name to America during the colonial period, where it became common, particularly in the southern states. As plantation culture grew, enslaved Africans often took on the surnames of their enslavers, and Harris was no exception. For many African Americans, the name Harris carried a dual meaning. On the one hand, it was a reminder of their ancestors' enslavement. On the other hand, the name's association with rulers and power became a source of pride after emancipation. Many African Americans who had worked on plantations under the Harris name continued to use it, transforming it into a symbol of survival and strength as they built new lives in a post-slavery world. Number 8. Thomas. The surname Thomas is carried by more than 543,000 African Americans, with notable concentrations in Georgia, Texas, and Virginia. Interestingly, this name has biblical roots, originating from Greek and Aramaic, where Taoma means twin. It became well known in Christian culture due to St. Thomas, one of Jesus Christ's 12 apostles. In England, Thomas became a popular surname during the Middle Ages, especially with the rise of Christianity. English settlers brought the name to America, where it spread widely, particularly in the South. Enslaved Africans were often given Christian names, and Thomas, with its biblical significance, was frequently assigned by enslavers. For many African Americans, the name Thomas carried deep religious meaning. St. Thomas's story of doubt and later belief in the resurrection of Christ resonated with many who faced their own struggles for freedom and faith. After emancipation, many African Americans chose to keep the surname Thomas as a reflection of their Christian faith and their strength in overcoming hardship. It became a name that symbolized both faith and endurance. Number 7. Davis. The surname Davis is carried by over 660,000 African Americans, most notably in New York, Illinois, and Maryland. Davis has roots in Welsh and English origins and is derived from the name David, which comes from the Hebrew Daud, meaning beloved. Therefore, Davis translates to the son of David. Historically, David has been a prominent biblical figure, particularly in Christian and Jewish traditions. The name Davis was famous in Wales and England, passed down through families who honored the name David. British settlers brought Davis to America, where it spread, especially in the southern states. During slavery, many African Americans were given the surname Davis by their enslavers, often Welsh or English families. While this surname was a mark of servitude, it was also a connection to the biblical figure David, a symbol of love and leadership. Therefore, after emancipation, African Americans kept the surname Davis to honor their past and build a new identity in a free society. For many, Davis became a name that represented not only their lineage, but also their place within a community that valued love, resilience, and strength. Number 6. Jackson. More than 700,000 African Americans share the surname Jackson, with many living in Georgia, Texas, and New York. The name Jackson is of English origin and translates to son of Jack or John. In turn, the name John comes from the Hebrew name Yochanan, meaning God is gracious. The surname Jackson originated in England and became widely used in the United States, especially after British settlers arrived. It became common in the southern states, where enslaved Africans often took on the surnames of their enslavers, which included Jackson. After emancipation, many African Americans kept this surname as part of their new identity. Number 5. Brown. With over 953,000 African Americans bearing the surname Brown, it's especially common in New York, Florida, and Texas. The name Brown is of English and Scottish origin, making it one of the oldest and most widespread surnames in the English-speaking world. It was originally used as a descriptive surname for individuals with brown hair, brown skin, or someone who frequently wore brown clothing. In some instances, it also referred to someone who lived near a brown-colored landmark, like a hill or field. The surname Brown became widespread in Britain and later arrived in America with settlers from England and Scotland. In the southern U.S., Brown became a common surname for enslaved Africans, who often adopted the names of their enslavers once they gained freedom. Its simplicity and wide usage made it one of the most frequently used surnames, passed down through generations of African Americans. Brown was a practical and easy-to-remember name, often given by enslavers to the people they owned. After slavery ended, many African Americans chose to keep the surname Brown as part of their personal history. Today, it's one of the most recognizable surnames in African American communities, especially in New York, Florida, and Texas. Number 4. Jones. More than 1,128,000 African Americans carry the surname Jones, with many living in New York, California, and Georgia. The name Jones has both Welsh and English origins and is derived from the name John. John comes from the Hebrew name Yochanan, meaning God is gracious. However, Jones is a patronymic surname, meaning son of John. The surname Jones is particularly common in Wales and England, and it became a prevalent name in the US during the period of colonization. Like many other surnames, Jones was passed down to enslaved Africans by their British or Welsh enslavers. After slavery ended, African Americans who had taken the name Jones frequently retained it, and it became a symbol of their perseverance. Number 3. Smith. Over 1,506,000 African Americans share the surname Smith, especially in Georgia, Texas, and Florida. Smith is one of the oldest surnames in the English-speaking world, originating from English roots. It's an occupational surname, derived from the Old English word smid, meaning to smite or to strike, and it was typically used for someone who worked as a blacksmith or other types of metal workers who shaped metal into tools, weapons, and other items. The surname Smith became common throughout Britain and was brought to the American colonies by British settlers. It quickly spread, particularly in the South, where many African Americans inherited the surname from their enslavers. After the Civil War and emancipation, the name Smith was retained by many African Americans, becoming a powerful symbol of endurance and craftsmanship. Number 2. Johnson. More than 1,255,000 African Americans carry the surname Johnson, with high concentrations in Georgia, Texas, and New York. Johnson is of English and Scottish origin and is a patronymic surname meaning son of John. The name John also comes from the Hebrew name Yochanan, meaning God is gracious. Johnson became one of the most popular surnames across Europe, particularly after the spread of Christianity. The surname Johnson gained popularity in England and Scotland before being brought to the US by British settlers. Enslaved Africans often inherited this surname from their English or Scottish enslavers. After emancipation, Johnson became one of the most widely adopted surnames among African Americans. Number 1. Williams. With over 1,433,000 African Americans carrying the surname Williams, it is the most common surname among African Americans, with high concentrations in Georgia, Texas, and Florida. Williams has Welsh origins and comes from the name William, which itself is derived from the Germanic elements will and helm, meaning resolute protector. As a patronymic surname, Williams means son of William. The surname Williams was common in Wales and later spread to England and the American colonies. It was frequently adopted by enslaved Africans during slavery, as many enslavers bore the name Williams. After emancipation, it became the most popular surname among African Americans. Did you find your last name and its history? Wouldn't it be interesting to meet people sharing your last name and talk about forging a united community, as was the trend during the time of Martin Luther King Jr.? In the comment section right below, let us know about your history because we all are interested in knowing about yourself so more people can find individuals sharing their names. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We bring videos on Black Africa, its history, rich arts and culture, and things the world should know about. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.